host of the Gridiron.
For the Giants, this is really very impressive. So between Malik and WanDale, they had 202 receptions on the season. Now, of course, Malik set the record, right? He had, WanDale had, I think it was 83 going in. Yeah, he had 83 going in, right? He had 10 receptions. Okay, so he had 93, but he stayed healthy, right? He played in all 17. He only started, I think 8 of them. So a lot of the games he didn't even start, but he played in all 17. He had Malik had 93 receptions. WanDale had 93 receptions. Malik had 109. So Malik set the record, and WanDale had 93. So between the two of them, 202 receptions on the season. So that's a nice pair. I said, I mean, you can almost imagine, right? If we would maybe grab another, or as I said, if you're going to grab one, grab one. There's some good ones coming out. Grab another good one in the second round. Right? You don't have to take number 3 overall, but you can certainly see where we could use another good wide receiver. That would help even open up stuff even more. But between the two guys, 202 receptions between the two of them. But I mean, I said you also look here. Now going into the game here, WanDale Robinson, he had 129 targets. Does it say how many targets he had? I don't think it did. Oh, yeah, it did, yeah. Okay, so he had 11 targets. All right, so WanDale had 11 targets. WanDale had 140 targets on the season. So what is that? So he had averaged about 8 targets a game. He averaged 2 targets a quarter. Okay, so that's a nice amount. Malik Nabers had 162 plus what? He had 170. Okay. So it was 170 and 140. So they had 310 targets. That's a lot of targets. Now the Giants threw the ball. So they had well over. I mean, the targets 526. We had like 5. They had like well over half the targets. Those two receivers, they had like maybe 60% of the targets. I didn't figure it out exactly, but they had about 60%, maybe even a little bit more of the targets. So they had a lot of targets, a lot of balls being thrown their way. The problem is that you look at WanDale Robinson, right? He averaged on a reception 7.9 yards of reception. Malik Nabers was he averaged 11. Now, of course, that might have gone up a little bit. Well, maybe not. I don't know. He had 5 catches for 60. He averaged 12.8. Now, so he averaged a little over 11 yards of reception. You kind of hope that maybe with him, Malik, to get that number up there a little bit. But, WanDale averaged like 8 yards of reception. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right. It's nice to have one of those reception leaders. I'm not reception leaders. Receiving threats. Somebody who gets open a lot, right? Maybe a chain mover, right? But obviously, also too is Malik broke the Giants receiving record. Obviously, Steve Smith had 107 receptions in 2009. And Malik, thankfully, got his receptions. So he's up to 109. Now, let's not forget, he did miss 2 games as well, too. Now, of course, it's sometimes you're not always comparing apples to apples and all that, because you're comparing Malik's, rookie season with somebody else's, and somebody, like Odell Beckham. But Odell Beckham, his season was a 16-game season. This is a 17-game season, but also Odell, right, who had 91 receptions, missed 4 games. He only played in 12 games, right? Malik played in 15 games. Malik played in 3 more games. Now, at the rate that Odell Beckham Jr. was catching balls back in 2014, had he played in 15 games like Malik did, Odell Beckham Jr. certainly might have had at least 109 catches. Right, at the rate he was going. He certainly had the yards, that's for sure. But Malik had well over 1,000 yards receiving, and then also let's not forget about also with Tracy too, right? So between Malik and Tracy, it's just the third time in history, right, that a pair of rookies, came in and both had 1,000 yards, or 1,000 all-purpose yards between rushing and receiving. The first time was in the AFL though in 1960. Two running backs did it. They both wound up with over 1,000 yards. Two running backs. And then, of course, Marcus Colston and Reggie Bush did it in 2006 with the Saints. But, of course, they had Drew Brees. They had a Hall of Fame quarterback throwing the ball. Giants, let's see here. Let me think of the Hall of Fame quarterback on the Giants roster this year throwing the ball. Wait, hold on. Wait, don't tell me. I'll get it. Hold on. The Hall of Fame quarterback, the Giants. That's right. I forgot they don't. So that makes it even more impressive. Right? I mean, you got Drew Brees throwing you the ball compared to Tim Boyle, Daniel Jones, Tommy Chicken Cutler Parmesan, and Drew Lock. So what these guys did was pretty impressive. Obviously, our offensive line was in a shambles almost all season. The first 4 or 5 games or so, whatever, we actually started the same lineup, which is unbelievable. Then, of course, the wheels started falling off, and then the car just spun out of control and into the gully and caught on fire and engulfed in flames, and everybody died. It just went out of control after that. But I mean, so what Malik and Tyrone Tracy were able to do this season, over 1,000 all-purpose yards, is pretty impressive with this offensive. That pathetic offense that we have is pretty pathetic. Now, obviously Tracy, 5th round pick, very good. A good running back. You saw what he was able to do kind of early on, right? He broke. When we had our offensive line relatively intact with Andrew Thomas there, right? He broke a few of them, right? Obviously, he hasn't been breaking that many. He had a 40-yard run last week against the Colts. But other than that, you look at the rest of his rushes against the Colts, I think he had like 19 carries for like 19 yards, right? So he had that one long run, but he could benefit certainly from a better offensive line. But you can see when we have good offensive line play, like earlier on in the season when we had Andrew Thomas, John Runyon, John Michael Schmitz, GVR, Illuminor, when those guys were playing as a unit, our Fab Five, right? You saw Tracy, had some nice runs. Of course, and Tracy didn't even start early in the season, too. It wasn't until, I think, Singletary got hurt, Tracy started, and Tracy had some good runs. But I mean, I just wanted to point this out. It's just fantastic. 202 receptions. I didn't think the Giants would quite maybe get there because, I mean, to get to 202, they were going to, between WanDale and Malik Nabers, they were going to need like about 14 receptions or just to tie. And I wasn't sure if they were going to be able to get that or not, but they did. I mean, WanDale came up with 10 receptions and Malik had 6. So that's pretty impressive. That's pretty impressive, especially for the absolutely pathetic offense the Giants have. And the quarterback play, we had 4 different quarterbacks play. There's nobody going to a Super Bowl. Nobody, right? With the amount of different offensive line starting formations that the Giants have had 10 different starting offensive line combinations. Nobody's going to Super Bowl there. And having 4 quarterbacks play. Not happening. I mean, you can look at Drew Lock was, basically, I mean, he got passed over. So Drew Lock was almost like our 3rd-string quarterback, right? Let's give the Eagles Tanner McKee, okay? And we'll wipe out the Eagles offensive line and give them 10 different starting units, and let's see if they can go to a Super Bowl. Not happening. Sorry, not happening. But I just wanted to point that out. They did a fantastic job. And, I mean, one of the things that, that between the two, right? Between those two, what you certainly want to look at is, when you're playing this bad and everything like that, you want to look something to look forward to for the future, right? And there are obviously there's some bright spots here. Let's see what we can bring in. Obviously in free agency, let's see what free agents actually want to come here. But let's see what kind of a draft we get and all that. And maybe we can, once again, try to get excited for the following season, drink some of the Kool-Aid, and only to get disappointed again next year. But, we do need a quarterback.